Hey guys, I'm Rob, and this is Normal Days Off.
The secret that I like to use for these to make them taste like a little bit, they taste so much nicer. Whenever I think of like Mexican cooking, yeah, good one right there. Alarms going off in the middle of shooting. This costs thousands of dollars an hour, and you're gonna mess that up? Anyway, it's fine. Don't worry, just so she knows, thousands of dollars.
All right, today we're making whole fish tacos. It's time to amaze everybody. Roasting the whole fish ourselves and a bunch of little extra things that'll look nice and taste nice. It's whole fish taco.
So I'm gonna show you how to make tacos, how to roast a whole fish, and maybe just make a few extra little things that can go on the table. The first thing we're gonna do is make the tacos. It doesn't really take much. I like to use self-rising flour. So self-rising flour usually is just like a general all-purpose flour, but already has some rising elements to it. So if you only have all-purpose flour, you can add a little bit of baking powder to it, just gives it like a little bit of lift when you actually wind up cooking it. So I start here. I think this is 360 grams of just self-rising flour. I put a little pinch of salt in there, just something like that. The secret that I like to use for these to make them taste nicer, whenever I think of like Mexican cooking, yeah, good one right there. Alarms going off in the middle of shooting. This costs thousands of dollars an hour, and you're gonna mess that up? Anyway, it's fine. Don't worry, just so she knows, thousands of dollars. The little secret that I like to put into my tacos is MASA flour. But I like adding 10%, something like that, of MASA, and it just like adds this amazing flavor and this amazing smell as well. And the last two things we're gonna need is whole milk and pork lard. So first of all, we need hot milk. I don't feel like heating up in a pan because I don't trust myself, so I'm just gonna microwave it. You want it like really hot, but you don't want it to the point where it's gonna, if you're doing it in a pan, you don't want it to boil over or anything. You don't want to bring it to a boil. You just want it like really hot. You see like the steam coming off it and all that. That's when you know it's pretty much there. And next, the other secret to it is animal fat. You can really use any animal fat you want, some kind of like rendered fat. I like using pork. You don't want anything you don't want like a hard suet or anything like that, like beef or lamb or something that gets really hard. You want something a bit softer, similar to butter. If you wanted to, you could use butter to this, just to keep it a little bit more veggie, I guess. But I find the pork lard just has the best flavor, and I think it consistently it gives it like a much nicer kind of look in the pan. I don't know. I've used a few different fats. I like the pork lard the most. And so essentially, you just take this bad boy, pop it in there. This is just where you get your hands dirty. It's great. And you just do this, and you keep doing it. You try to like break it down as much as you can. If there's any like big chunks, you can just kind of go like this. That breaks it up a little bit. But it really is important to try to work it in as much as you can. Sometimes I'll use my hands to just kind of squish it together. And then you just pop this in. Is this thing like leaking? It was leaking. There's like a crack on the side of it. You're gonna work all this together. You can see the hot milk kind of like really brings it together really fast. Like if it was cold milk, it would kind of be more like your traditional kind of bread you were making or something like that. When it's hot, it just kind of comes together a little quicker. But eventually, this is just gonna be a really nice, like smooth dough by the time we're done with it. Looks real shaggy right now, but I just kind of keep moving the bowl a bit. And I just keep kind of, as you can see, I'm kind of like folding the dough over itself, over and over again. And if you smell that, you can really smell the masa. As soon as all that hot milk touches it, it's like, whew. Now, typically I think this is supposed to take like 5 to 10 minutes. Just kind of get into that groove of, see how I'm kind of like folding it over itself, turning it 90 degrees. Folding it over itself, turning at 90 degrees. And you just kind of keep doing that. There we go. See, as it kind of comes together, it gets a little bit easier. I feel like it'll be easier like that. Now that I've kind of gotten everything off the bowl, that's easier for me. I think I remember when I used to make this in my machine or in my like mixer, I just kind of put it on like maybe like a medium speed, and it only took like 5 minutes. Honestly, probably even less. Like I said, as soon as it kind of comes off the side of the bowl, when you have it in a mixer anyway, it's pretty much good to go. You just use the old dough hook and it takes care of it for you. I think you're gonna know, it's been about 5 minutes now. I've been working it pretty hard, and it definitely, you can just feel, like I was just saying earlier, you can feel it starting to tense up a bit. So that's usually when you know it's there. But you just go at it till you figure, you know, the consistency's pretty much there. Like, you kind of know it's not changing too much. I mean, like it's kind of there. It'll always look like a little bit shaggy, I always find. That's about it. I think at that point, she's good. So I just pop it back in the bowl. I could put a little, I'll just put this over top of it. Just put something to like, just to like cover the bowl. Just put like a plate on top or something like that. And so the dough needs to rest now because it is a little bit tensed up. So we're just gonna give it like 20 minutes, a half hour, just to sit, do its thing. And then we'll portion it up. So I'm just popping that over there for now. Star of the show, we're gonna dress up this sweet, sweet bad boy. So this is a snapper. Snapper is just really nice, but I just like leaving it whole. I think it's really cool. Cooking fish on the bone, whole. It just has this whole like, you know, it does have like a weird like wow factor to it or something like that. But also because it's cooked on the bone with the head on, it's got the cheeks there. It keeps the flesh super moist. And we're just gonna add some aromatics to it, some lemon, maybe a little bit of spice. The way I like to do it is along the front here, I like to make a couple of cuts. So we're just gonna make a couple cuts, just be like really gentle with it. I usually go 3, because 3 always looks nice. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side, but obviously only one side will be presented. So the fish, you don't wanna get too crazy with it. You don't wanna add all these like wacky flavors. I mean, you can, by all means. The thing that I need, I'm gonna get a little bit of thyme, because that's really beautiful with fish. If you have lemon thyme, it's even better. Sometimes I have that growing in the garden. You get a little bit of parsley kicking over here. You know, if you have like extra parsley stems from anything you've made earlier. First thing I'm gonna do though is I'm gonna add the lemon to the fish. And I like adding these bad boys right into the cuts that I've made. Looks really beautiful. The rest of my lemons, we're just gonna put into the cavity, up into the head and all that. Pop them inside. They're super aromatic once they start cooking. And then so I got the garlic. I'm gonna put a bit of the garlic inside as well. The cavity's just gonna hold so much. The shallots, they're gonna go in there as well. Whatever like extra stuff you have, you just pop it at thyme. Same deal. Inside. The parsley, I pop that inside as well. The cavity is like just where I absolutely fill it with all these aromatics. So next, a little bit of olive oil, just on top. Black pepper, salt, all over the top of this bad boy. And this is how I would just prepare it if I was, you know, gonna be doing dinner or something like that. But because we're doing tacos, I'm gonna take taco seasoning and put it on top. Not a lot, but just a little bit. That looks pretty banging. I'm pretty happy with that. But we're not gonna bang it in the oven yet. I'm just gonna let this bad boy chill out. So, the next thing we're gonna make for our tacos is obviously you can't have tacos without avocado guacamole. This is one that I always love making at home because once again, I got my trusty NutriBullet out. Grab some nice like ripe avocados. Maybe with like 2 of them. 2, yeah, I go 2. No, I'm gonna go 3. 3 avocados. This is probably the easiest guacamole I make. go through with a knife really easily and do a little cross section, little something along there. Boop, boop, boop. Cool. So we're just gonna have that guy ready right there. I'm gonna grab one whole jalapeno. What else do I need? Some garlic, 2 cloves of garlic. Alrighty, I like adding, like, even though the avocados are super fatty, I like adding a little bit of olive oil to it. Makes it nice, little bit shiny. Just a little bit more, not too much. You need like a big old pinch of salt in there. Something just kind of like that. Maybe like 10 grams, 15 grams, something like that, like a tablespoon. Cilantro. If you don't like cilantro, you just, or coriander, wherever you are in the world. If you don't like it, you're weird, I don't know. Cilantro is just one of the best herbs. It's so fresh, so fragrant. I know to some people it tastes like soap, but I love, like, especially something like this, you have to have cilantro no matter what. So with the roots anyway, I'm probably gonna get rid of all this extra long, you know, kind of furry looking stuff. I'm not gonna put that in there. But, you know, once you get to the actual roots, you can just see them all along there. So I'll just cut those guys up a bit. Like I said, we just want to blitz this. When we do blitz this, we want to blitz it really fast, because if you just keep it running forever, it's just going to like discolor and just look a little bit gross, and like everybody likes like a really nice vibrant guacamole. So you just want to cut it all up just so everything can move around really easily. The last thing we need are limes. I'm just gonna say we need about 3 limes. You just really need that acidity just to cut through everything else going on here. These guys are super fatty. Put the zest in. Don't ever waste the zest like me. But everybody always puts lime in their guac, you know? And for good reason. And so I'm gonna put all this in here. I'm not gonna put it, like, juice it into there, because it's just gonna help everything move around a bit more. But it's pretty straightforward ingredients that you put in here. You know, if you have any mint, we don't have any more mint, do we? Sometimes I like putting like a little bit of mint in. If you got it kicking around, it's like, why not? That's pretty much it. There's really not a lot of ingredients in here. I think the key, definitely fresh lime, garlic, cilantro, like that's kind of it, honestly. That's all you really need. You shouldn't really have to overthink this too much. I'll blitz this bad boy up. So there it is. Like I said, you don't want to blitz it for very long. Maybe I just did that for like 10 seconds or something. So you just pour it all in, just right on top of everything. Just make sure there's no like big chunks of, you know, you want to make sure you blitz up that garlic. So you don't want to bite into this and have like a big thing of garlic sticking in your face. It's something you can even make like the day before, because it's better as all of this sits, the salt, the lemon juice, it'll break down the bits of avocado. Okay, so the next thing we need is we're gonna make refried beans. Just get some bacon. This is probably like 100 grams worth of bacon or something like that, but it's really however much you want to put in. The bacon just adds a nice smoky flavor in the background. A little bit of olive oil just to start it. You got these guys all cut up nice and tiny, and we're just gonna fry them up. Those guys are looking good, so just let those kind of render out on like a medium heat. So you get just like a clove of garlic. You use an onion or a shallot, whatever you got. But most people just got onions kicking around at home. And I think I'm just gonna cut or dice up maybe a half an onion. Pop your garlic in. Once your bacon starts to render down a bit, and so all that fat's kind of rendered out, I'm just gonna put in my onions now. And so the last bit, obviously, in the refried beans are going to be beans. So I just grabbed 1 can. Usually it's like black or navy beans people eat. I just feel the bacon is always like a very it's just something that you kind of need at that base. It just gives it this whole other kind of boost of flavor. All we're gonna do, once that's all sweated out, we're just gonna add these beans and keep the water that is in the can, because you want to keep that. There's like a lot of like starches from the beans in it. You just pop them in, and you're just gonna cook the beans out. With that water, use a nice wooden spoon, because when that water hits, it'll kind of deglaze the bottom of the pot or the pan or whatever it is you're using. If you need to, you can add a little bit more water, just a tiny bit more. So you're just gonna bring it up to a boil. Let's see, let's taste it. Let's see if it needs salt. I don't know. I've never done this before. That tastes pretty banging. I think it needs like a pinch of salt. That tastes really good. It just tastes like, it's like we're making a bacon and bean stew. You get a whisk out or anything like a potato masher, like I don't know, literally anything you can use to just crush the beans. Just mash them all up while they're cooking. But as you crush the beans, it's kind of like the water that we put in them, or the water that we put in with them. As they get crushed, they just start releasing all that starch and it'll just naturally thicken. It's also pretty hot right now. So when this all cools down, it'll turn more into like, it'll turn into more of like that pasty kind of look that most refried beans have when you get them out of a can or something. And that's another thing. You can do this the day before. You can get so ahead on this stuff. And this is something that would just go really well with any tacos, whatever. And that was just one can. So refried beans, guacamole. Now it's time to pop this bad boy into the I was about to say fridge. We're not putting it in the fridge. We're gonna put it in the complete opposite of the fridge. We're gonna put it in the oven. So a fish this size is probably gonna take 25 to 30 minutes. Doesn't take very long. You don't wanna you wanna just cook this thing. Like when you're cooking fish in a restaurant, the worst thing you can do is just overcook a fish if you're working the fish station or something like that, because it immediately just gets so dry, it just sucks. So you wanna make sure that we just cook this bad boy through. It'll be super juicy because of that, but also, like I said, because it's on the bone, it's gonna be so much nicer. Give him a kiss, right on the lips, because he's going in the oven. There we go. Let's pop her in. So I would say 180 for about 25 minutes at least. So the last thing we gotta do now, obviously, is make the tacos. Our dough's rested up. It's been about 25 minutes, a half hour, something like that. And it feels good. It's cooled down quite a bit. And so, cooking these, you're gonna get a pan on, medium heat. The best thing to use, I don't have this right here right now, is a cast iron pan. If you have a cast iron pan, and you put that on at medium to medium low heat, just let it just sit there and hold a lot of heat. So they're the best for cooking something like this. It just never really loses it. As soon as it loses it, it just gains it back because it has that nice big thick bottom on it. Let's weigh it out. I usually do mine at around 40 grams. They look really tiny, these tiny little, tiny little balls. But when you actually flatten these on this bad boy, they just spread out like crazy. I just get a little dough cutter, makes your life a little easier. You don't want to kind of like any bread you're dealing with, you don't want to be ripping it apart by your hand or something. Get a knife if you don't have one of these kicking around. So you got all your little soldiers here. And you got to roll these up into balls essentially. There's a way you can do it. I don't know if anybody knows how to do this. You can roll them into nice. You're just kind of folding the dough underneath itself. If you can't do this, another thing you can do is you can tuck it under itself. And you just kind of push your finger through and kind of pinch them along the bottom. It's okay if they're not perfect balls or anything like that. All right, we got all of our little soldiers here now. I'm very excited. Always be careful with the first ones that you do in the pan, just so you can kind of figure out what's going on. So I like using a little bit of canola spray. Put a little bit on the top, put a little bit on the bottom, and you put a little bit on these guys. As I cut squares out like this. They don't have to be perfect, but I got 3 of them out. You want them to be able to just kind of fit on your tortilla press. Like I said earlier, if you want to, you can take these little guys and you can roll them out with a rolling pin or a wine bottle or something like that. It'll work. Spray on both sides of this, but I'll still spray it once more. This guy, I'm gonna spray the other one that's gonna be on the top. Pop her on, and you just kind of lean into it and you touch it all the way through the other side. It'll probably need one more go. So I usually, these presses are always like kind of a little bit uneven in a strange way. So I always wind up turning it again like 90 degrees, just touching. You don't have to sit there and you'll crank on it the whole time. And you wind up getting this guy. See, it's like underneath there. Now, if I just peeled this off without any of this paper, it would kind of immediately shrink up and just kind of go back to its original size. Not its original size, that'd be crazy, that wouldn't make any sense. But it would definitely lose a lot of its size. So usually I'm just gonna do this one more time, just so it stretches out a little bit more. This also makes it a lot easier to handle. You take one side off like that, and you put it just right in the pan and not screw it just like I just did. And this, like I said, this really helps it not shrink back up immediately, tighten back up. It just kind of like the paper will kind of hold it a bit. And this is kind of just, obviously every oven is different. Every induction's a little bit different. So you kind of just got to find out what works for you. I can't really tell you exactly how to do this, exactly what heat to put it on. So you just start with one and you kind of figure it out from there. You maybe, if you want, you can put a little timer on. Typically, it takes about 30 seconds on each side, if you have the heat right anyway. So after it's been on there a bit, you can take your paper off, and let's see. A little bit of color. Well, it's a lot of color. A little bit too much color. Then you just kind of keep going until the other side gets a nice color. This bread is obviously gonna cook through super fast. Anyway, there we go. Got a nice color on both sides. Smells amazing. And usually the best way to store these guys, I just take a towel, like a nice clean towel from your kitchen, and you just cover it up, just like that. And so now that I have like a bit of a flow going on, I kind of know how long that's gonna take. I'll just press another taco while I'm waiting for that taco to finish. That looks a little nicer. See, I just had the heat too high the first time. It's still gonna taste amazing. Cooks about right, just a little bit of color. You don't wanna like be sitting there like browning the crap out of them. Oh, they smell like, with the masa, it smells so good. You pop it right in there, right on top of your other guy. All right, so now that I've been making tortillas for the last 10 years, the fish is finally ready. Took an entire millennia, I'm still making tortillas. I only made 16 tortillas. I haven't even made them yet. I've made 12 tortillas. This is ridiculous. I'm never making tortillas again. Support large corporations. Buy tortillas. I can't do this anymore. That's boring. It's not funny. All right, we're done with this. Fish. The fish is ready. It's looking beautiful. Boom. She's out. Oh, you can smell the garlic. You can smell the lemon, you can smell all the herbs, especially that thyme. So, usually you can tell it's cooked with those slits that we put through. They've kind of like widened up a bit. If you look at like the liquid that comes out of the fish, it's all just like nice and clear and clean. And I noticed it's just kind of like, it's just cooked perfectly. And that literally, that was about 30 minutes in the oven. It does not take long at all. It looks amazing. Like I said, this is something you can get this together, you know, hours before you're actually putting it in. You just have it hanging out in the fridge and all that. There's tacos, there's refried beans, there's guacamole, there's sour cream, and now there's even purple cabbage. Forget everything else. I would just come for the purple cabbage. Are you a purple cabbage person or are you a green cabbage person? You're obviously a purple cabbage kind of person, because it just is gonna look the best. Look at all the green stuff, all the white stuff. Purple is the last thing that we need to complete this. Oh, look at that. That looks even better than the fish. Good God. There we go. Cabbage, guacamole, Jesus, fish, refried beans.
This looks like a sick dinner. I'm really stoked. Once again, everything we got here, the whole roasted fish, handmade tortillas, guacamole, refried beans, this little salad with everything I had left over at the end. And everybody loves eating with their hands more than anything. So let's dig into this. Best way to take the fish off is you just grab a fork and it should just lift right off. And so here we go, right along the side, take all these bad boys off. And you just lift this off. You can see the bones there underneath it. There's so much juice. What's really nice about it is this is a pretty healthy little meal as well. That's probably so good. So good, and it's so clean all the way through. Everything comes through. The beans, the guac, the really nice acidity from the guac, just that nice clean fish, the salad, and these tacos just man. Seriously, I'm really happy with this. I think we absolutely crushed it. Rob, normal days off, fish tacos, just go make them, get them in your face. I'm really happy with that. Peace.